there guys, this is Malorian, and my wife still hasn't gone out of my office, so we're going to invade her office. And today, this is going to be a Warcaster review. These are the ones where I go through and we talk about basically the stats of a caster, its abilities, and then kind of talk about what units might be good to take with that caster, and as well some general tricks and tips. And when I put up the post there on the War Machine YouTubers page on Google+, I asked, like, what should I do it on? And there's a couple of different things, but of course, with the new ADR being released and which ones will be active as of June 1st, or July 1st rather, people want me to talk about something from there. And one that really caught my eye is they want to know about Lylyth 3. Now, Lylyth 3 is one of the cavalry warlocks, is also on those huge base, and she is not the easiest caster to use, but let's kind of go through what she does have. So she's speed 9, which is great. She is, strength 8, mat 6, rat 8. That's all right. Coming from a Kane 2 guy, like, where's that rat 9? But rat 8's respectable. Defense 14, armor 16, and then command 8, eyeless sight, of course, because it's Lylyth. She has the weapon called Whisper. Now, it's a lot like other bows where it's range 12, POW 12, magical weapon, but this one here has a couple of interesting things. First of all, it has auto fire 3. So you get to make 3 range attacks with this thing as long as they're within 2 inches of the first primary target. So she always gets 3 shots. So that's pretty nice to have. Another thing here is that she also has rear attack, which gives her 360. Honestly, when you're shooting a bow, for the most part, you're not shooting behind you, but hey, sometimes it might come up, right? Blood Boon, this is the one that's way bigger, and what this does, that once per activation, immediately after resolving an attack in which they destroy an enemy living model, you get to automatically cast a spell that's cost 3 or less without spending any fury. And this is massive because not only, being only fury 5, we can cover that stat now, so that casting things is already going to be a problem. Getting the cast for free is great. And, this is not just what's on her card. That's a big thing to remember about this Boon here, is that, sure, all things in her card are 3 or less, so you have this, but this also could be any of the animuses as well. So please keep in mind that you could be doing an animus with this as well. If you want to throw up tenacity after you shoot something, go ahead. Alright, she also has 2 scything blades on her little chariot thing. They're both P plus S12, so it's okay. It's nothing amazing, but it's why not, pretty much. And also a mount attack of 12 as well. So, a good number of attacks from this model coming out here. And, I mean, for the most part, you won't want to do that. But hey, when you need to, there's basically 3 initials. So, why not? Alright, so looking at this here for her actual rules past this, is that she is going to be having battle engine. So she's on a huge base, she's a battle engine, so that means that she's not a warrior model and all the different rules that go with battle engines. She can do a power attack trample, and again, this is something where sometimes it's like, yeah, this is amazing because this base can go and trample over all these things, but it is really, really hard to find a spot to place this huge base model. So sometimes this will come up and it'll do okay, but again, she's only mat 6, so this won't be super awesome. Something that I should be saying here too is that with the scything blades, they also have the rule called Threshing Blades, and this model can add this weapon's POW to its trample attack. So basically when it does its tramples, it's going to be going not at just the strength, it's going to go at that 12. So the trample is alright, but again, you're only mat 6, so it's a little bit hard to hit these things. Otherwise, what she has here is weapon platform, so she's allowed to make melee and range attacks. So you could do a thing where you go in there, make your melee attacks, kill a couple of things, and then shoot something else. So this is where those melee things can come in, but you don't want to go over the top with this. I mean, she is still just Lylyth, and she can die very easily. So you got to be very careful about that. Past that, that's all the rules on her actual card. So what spells does she have? Well, first of all, she has Escort. This one costs 2. It's just on herself. And what it means that War Beasts in this model's battle group, beginning in their activation, in control area, gain +2 movement. So it's a nice way to give your force an extra speed bump, that's for sure. And as well, this model, Lylyth 3, gains +2 armor, while the War Beast from its battle group is within 3 inches of it. So, you know, that armor that we talked about in the beginning about just being 16, you know, if you're by a beast, all of a sudden that goes up to 18. You put up spiky growth, it's 20. So it can be not too bad armor-wise. The next one here is called Frost Hammer. This one is a spray 8, cost 2, and this one causes cold damage, and on a critical hit, they become stationary. Now, this one isn't normally going to be coming up. Maybe if you really need to get to try and go for that crit stationary. A lot of times where this one could be 2 is if you don't need to be putting up a different spell after you do your blood boon from shooting guys, is, hey, if you're up close, why not do a spray? And even though when you do the spray, when you do it for free, you can always boost to hit as well, so you could be trying to get those crits. So sometimes that would be an okay thing to do, but really this is a spell you'll almost never cast, probably. Last one here on the card anyway is Wind Wall, and this model cannot make range attacks, and non-magical range attacks targeting it will automatically miss. So clearly, being that this is Lylyth 3 with a bow, you're not going to just cast this because then you can't shoot. This is perfectly set up for you to do with your blood boon so that you can shoot, and on the last guy, put this up here. Now, what this also says is, while completely within 3 inches of this model, models cannot make ranged attacks, and non-magical range attacks targeting them automatically miss. So this is something where it's almost like Lylyth 2, where instead of having Shadow Pack, she can have all of her beasts around her, and as long as they're within 3 inches of her, and if they be completely 3 inches of her, well, then they can't be shot at. So that sounds really, really good, but one of the things you're going to be talking about later is the whole idea about her mobility. And if you have all these beasts within 3 inches of her, that really limits where they can go. So normally, that's not going to be what you're doing. You're not going to be doing it to try and protect as like a shadow pack thing, but do know that that's a tool in your tool bag that you can use if you need to. If you're up against something that doesn't really have magical shots, of course, there's lots of magical shots out there now, so you have to kind of watch out for, you know, your Legion matchup where they also have a Naga, or if you ever see Idan Holt, you know, if you're ever against Siege, anything that can hand out magical attacks, really look out for that, because they'll just get right past your wind wall. So that's the spells. Now here's her feat. When an enemy model is directly hit by a range attack made by a friendly faction model, while the friendly faction model is in Lylyth's control area, the enemy model suffers Death Chill. The reaping lasts for 1 turn, and what this does is the Death Chill, you have to either forfeit your movement or your action. And so what you can really do for this, and what I really love seeing being done with this, is it's a great way to get off the alpha. Now, the alpha is already going to be pretty strong on this model anyway, because of how, with Escort, your beasts are going to have +2 speed. So that's pretty damn good. Actually, let me make sure I say that. Speed, or is it movement? It's +2 movement. So already your other beasts are going faster, and that means it'll be a lot easier for you to get the alpha. Your Legion beasts are already pretty fast. That's pretty good. So do you really need a feat that does this as well? And I think that with this, you really want to take a list that is mainly designed at taking out infantry. So you want to be taking a lot of things like Striders and maybe Raptors and whatever have you. You could also have a Seraph in there as well, just to be shooting down more infantry, and so that you can also go and do some slipstreaming to really push it. So +4 movement basically on a beast, so you really get that really alpha strike. Now, what you're going to want to do then is that on your feat turn, and really the turns prior to that, you're just thinning out the herd, trying to shoot all these things. And then when it comes into a time that you really want to go in there and dedicate, this is where you pop the feet. And then you can really rush in there. Your heavies, be these Scythians or Carnivians or whatever type of beast you like, they can really get in there and also kill lots of the infantry. A really nice one here can be the Scythian, because what you want to do here is shoot the heavies. So you don't need to do a lot of shooting onto the heavies. I mean, really, 3 Striders going plink, plink, plink. Okay, those 3 heavies aren't coming at me this turn, because then you have to either forfeit their movement or their action. And so the beautiful thing is that if those beasts aren't ranged beasts, this is where she loves Scythians, because Scythians can go and attack them at reach, and they can't attack you back. So not only does it really give you the alpha where you can get in there and attack the troops, and if you wanted to, you could always ignore the heavies. You could always say, like, you know what, I'm just going to shoot those heavies, concentrate on the masses, and then next turn I'll go after them. But if you really need to, let's say you're going up against something like whatever that's going to be pretty hard to take out in one go, well, again, if it doesn't have reach, your Scythian can get in there and it can attack, 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 and then after it's all done, well, it can't do anything to you other than walk up to you, and then after that, attack, attack, attack to finish it off. Now, another thing you can do here as well, because you have Seraphs and you have Slipstream, is that you could always even do this to reach beasts. Let's say you're doing this up against a Colossal, or up against the Avatar that doesn't have Gaze of Manoth up. Right now, I guess Gaze wouldn't even do this anyway. But what you do is you send in that Scythian, or whatever beast you want, and really wreck up that beast. Okay, well, now you're in range of it. That seems like it's bad, right? No. That's where you go up with Slipstream, pull it back away, and they can't get to you. So this is where you have to do a little bit of careful order of activations to really get the most out of it. And that's where we move on to our next point about her, is that really your movement in your order of activations is going to be absolutely key. If you have never played with a huge based caster before, you really don't know what you're in for. If you're normally used to a battle engine, usually the battle engines, they're on a huge base, but they're off doing their own thing. If you have a Colossal, they're on a huge base, but they're kind of off doing their own thing. They know that they're pretty tough. They could take a charge or two. They'll be fine. Your caster is a whole different thing completely. And for the most part, what you really need to do then, because of that, is always keep her farther back. And remember, you can always do ride-by attacks too. You are a cav model, so feel free to go up there, shoot, 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 and then back away. You can do that as a cav model, and as movement 9, take advantage of that. Get as far back away as you can. And when you're doing your placement of your army, make sure that you realize that don't trap yourself for the next turn. Don't move Lylyth somewhere and then go around her, because then if next turn she needs to activate first, she's in a lot of trouble. So try and keep something that's more of an open line. Give her lots of room to back out and get wherever she needs to go. And another problem with this as well, too, with this huge base caster, is not only the movement problems, and I mean, you also notice it too, that even with Pathfinder, well, all of a sudden walls will be a big issue, just like they are with Colossals, because you can't land on them, you have to kind of work around them. The other part of this too is that even though you ignore a lot of this shooting that's non-magical, blasts will almost always hit you, because your base is so large that even if they miss you, well, then all of a sudden they'll just still scatter off and they'll still hurt you. So it's a really big thing you have to kind of be looking out for, and it can be a pretty bad thing to have happen here. Now, they can't be targeted. Now, another thing you gotta watch, this is looking at the wind wall. So wind wall can kind of stop that if it's a non-magical blast. Look out for things like Ayanna and Holt putting on magical attacks on the Galleon or on the Earthbreaker, stuff like that, or you know, on Durgan or something like that. But the other thing you want to look out for too is just how big your base is and how many enemy attacks that means they can get on you. Normally, as a small base model, if somebody charges me with a unit of Banes, they can maybe get 3 models on me. When you're on a huge base like that, you know, that's Gaspy 2 becomes terrifying because you know that all those Banes are probably going to be able to get onto your base. And, you know, defense 14 is okay, meaning that those guys are hitting you on 8s, but when they're rolling 10 times, it's going to be kind of bad. So that's the main thing. When you first play her, you're probably going to get discouraged just because you're going to fall for those early pitfalls, wrong orders of activations, trapping yourselves in. But really, if you work on her, she should be okay. And she is part of the ADR now. And so she is really a caster that can be built different ways. And I think definitely with the new ADR, you'll be wanting to use that mainly for your beasts. Like I said, by standard, I would be making sure that you have a Seraph in there and 2 Scythians. But hey, maybe in your ADR, this is where you have some harder hitters or another heavy or whatever you need depending on the situation. So there you go. There's our Warcaster review. Please write down below if you have any other tips or tricks or if you disagree with something I said. So either way, thanks for watching and we'll catch you later. Bye.